Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel Biologycolony. In this video, we are going to discuss digestive system or alimentary canal of Herdmania. Digestive system includes alimentary canal and digestive glands. Alimentary canal is coiled and complete, that is beginning at mouth and terminating at anus. It includes following parts, that is mouth, also known as branchial aperture, which opens on top of branchial siphon at anterior end. It is bordered by four lips or lobes formed by the test and leads into the branchial siphon. As you can see in this diagram, here is shown the mouth region or branchial aperture that has four lips and it opens up into the branchial siphon, which further leads into the branchial sac or pharynx. Next structure we have buccal cavity. It is also known as stomodium. It is short, narrow and laterally compressed cavity of branchial siphon lined by epidermis. This structure contains branchial sphincter near the base of the siphon which regulates its opening. That is, the branchial sphincter present here regulates the opening of buccal cavity. Then we have branchial tentacles. These branchial tentacles are highly branched, delicate and present at the base of the siphon. They are also richly supplied with the nerves. Branchial tentacles are about 64 in number with 4 sizes: 8 large, 8 medium, 16 small and 32 very small. It appears sickle shaped as you can see in this diagram. It has upper border and lower border. Upper border is thick with numerous paired lateral branches called tentaculates, and lower border has a notch and it is lobed and covered by glandular epithelium. Tentacles act as a strainer which prevents entry of large food particles into pharynx. So only small food particles may pass, and it works as a chemoreceptor and keeps out impurities of seawater. Next we have pharynx. It is the largest part of body or atrial cavity. Prebranchial zone and branchial sac. So first is prebranchial zone. It is the part of the pharynx that is present before the branchial sac. It has two bands that are circular, thin, parallel and ciliated ridges are also present in them. First is anterior peripharyngeal band, second is posterior peripharyngeal band. In anterior one, it has complete ring. Mid-dorsally in front of it lies dorsal tubercle that is made up of two spiral coils. So somewhere here a dorsal tubercle will be found, and then posterior peripharyngeal band has incomplete ring, or it is interrupted mid-dorsally by dorsal lamina. So somewhere here dorsal lamina will be attached, and mid-ventrally it is attached by the endostyle. Endostyle is traversing here surrounding the branchial sac. There is a peripharyngeal groove present between the anterior and posterior peripharyngeal band which is highly ciliated with small cilia and present and it is a narrow groove. As you can see in this diagram, here are the bands, peripharyngeal bands. This one is anterior, the lower one is posterior, and in between them is the groove. So before the posterior or in front of the posterior lies the dorsal tubercle, and in front of the posterior one lies the dorsal lamina. So the branchial sac is the largest posterior region of pharynx, also known as branchial basket, which is perforated by gill slits or stigmata. Each side bears 200,000 stigmata arranged in transverse rows. Pharyngeal wall contains a network of broad longitudinal and transverse bars. Pharyngeal wall is richly vascular and bars contain their corresponding blood vessels, that is internal longitudinal and external transverse vessels. Interstigmatic vessels that are present between adjacent stigmata are also found, and along with them there are intrastigmatic vessels that traverse across through the each row of stigmata. Branchial folds are also present. These are the folding of inner wall of branchial sac longitudinally to increase its surface area, 9 to 10 in number on either side. Now this branchial sac has some structures. First one is trabeculae. These are the several hollow strands that connects outer wall of branchial sac to mantle, and each of it contains blood vessels. So this diagram, it is taken up from the branchial aperture as if we are seeing from the top. This is the lip, these are the branchial tentacles, then bands, pharyngeal bands, the endostylus covering the whole pharynx part at both the sides. This is the dorsal lamina and esophageal opening that will lead to the esophagus, then stomach, intestine, rectum and anus. Next is dorsal lamina. It is a thin flap or fold, also known as hyperpharyngeal band. It extends from posterior peripharyngeal band to right lip of esophageal opening. It has a row of 20 to 30 conical tapering tongue-like processes called the languids that hangs down from the dorsal lamina into cavity of branchial sac. It is the languids, these are covered by ciliated epithelium bent to right side and helps in conduction of food. Endostyle, it is another structure of branchial sac. It is shallow, longitudinal, mid-ventral groove present on floor of branchial sac. Anteriorly, it is continuous with peripharyngeal groove margins merged with posterior peripharyngeal band. Posteriorly, the groove terminates before reaching esophageal opening, while its folds reach up to esophageal opening as thin rectopharyngeal folds. It has 5 longitudinal ciliate tracts, one is median and 2 lateral pairs are present, and they alternate with 4 longitudinal tracts of mucus secreting glandular cells. The endostyle of urochordates is homologous with hypopharyngeal groove of cephalochordates, that is the branchiostoma, and thyroid glands of vertebrates. We have a esophageal area, that is small circular posterior-most region made up of 2 semicircular lips guarding the esophageal opening. As you can see in this diagram, here it can be seen the branchial folds are merging with the esophageal opening as rectopharyngeal fold. It contains dorsal lamina, dorsal tubercle, and here is the endostyle that is on the edge of the pharynx. Also in the next diagram we can see here from the top dorsal tubercle is present. Then we have dorsal lamina which opens to the esophageal opening. Now as you can see in this diagram, this is the alimentary canal of the Herdmania. When the test layer is removed and the mantle, that is the body wall, is also removed, we can see this structure very clearly. Here we can see the branchial aperture reaches to the branchial siphon, and it has buccal cavity that contains buccal sphincter and branchial tentacles. Then there is prebranchial zone and which leads to the branchial sac, and the dorsal lamina is present somewhere here that leads to the esophageal opening, then esophagus that is very short and it terminates into the stomach. Stomach has the left lever lobe and right lever lobe attached to it on the both sides, and liver secretions are dropped into the stomach. Then here comes the intestine, that is the proximal part of the intestine. Then it takes a loop, intestinal loop, and it reaches the distal part of the intestine. The gonads are present inside the intestinal loop, and this intestine is connected to the rectum which opens into the anus. Now this anus and this gonopore, that is the opening of the gonoduct, are present here near the atrial aperture which opens into the cloaca. So this anus and gonopore opens into cloaca, that is the common opening, and it leads to the atrial tentacles, then sphincters, and then atrial aperture, say it gets expelled out. So the water travels or enters from the branchial aperture and eventually is leaded out through the atrial aperture. So, esophagus is very short, curved and thick-walled tube. It has narrow lumen and is produced into 4 longitudinal ciliated grooves for passage of food. Stomach. It is wider, thin-walled and it has 2 sphincters present on both ends, that is, the entry and the exit. Surrounded on either side by right and left lobes of liver. The entry means it is connected through the esophagus to the pharynx and stomach, and exit means a sphincter is present between the stomach and the intestine. Intestine is thin-walled U-shaped tube with descending limb or proximal ventral limb and ascending limb, that is the distal or dorsal limb. The intestinal loop encloses the left gonad. Rectum. It is short, narrow tube internally lined by cilia. It opens into anus that is bounded by 4 lips, that is the atrial aperture. Cloaca, also known as atrial cavity, opens into atrial siphon which opens to outside through atrial aperture. It represents proctodeum that is lined by the ectoderm. Thanks for watching this video. Like, comment and subscribe to my YouTube channel Biology Colony and stay tuned for more. Bye.